Hello and thank you for tuning in to the channel today. We're going to be reviewing another video game in our long series of video game reviews here. This would be the second video game that we've reviewed on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about Ghost of Tsushima, a game released by Sucker Punch, the gaming studio involved with the development of Ghost of Tsushima, and is apparently developing a sequel that should be released for next-gen consoles. So let's go ahead and get right on into talking about this wonderful game. We're going to talk about 5 different categories: gameplay, story and character development, combat system, graphics, and the developer Sucker Punch themselves. So let's not wait and get right on into it.
Today, I die for my people.
Regarding the gameplay of Ghost of Tsushima, there are a few different elements to consider here. First and foremost, the gameplay itself seems to be very tightly done. It's a samurai gameplay, samurai RPG, open world experience where you are tasked to essentially take back the Isle of Tsushima from the invading Mongolian army. You and your uncle, who is captured right away at the very beginning of the game, are tasked with rallying the forces and rallying everybody around the island to come to the aid of the main character of Jin Sakai, the samurai who is known as the Ghost throughout this game. The gameplay is very fantastic and has very different elements to it. A couple of those elements regarding swordplay, very cool little feature regarding different stances that you can use, different abilities, different ghost weapons. I will also mention that this game can be played in 2 different modes, one in colored and in stereo sound. The other mode is known as a Kurosawa mode, which is actually a nod to the old samurai movie director. So you can put the game in black and white, or you can play the game in full color. I will also note that the audio in Kurosawa mode has that very monotone kind of feel to it. So it sounds very much like the old school samurai movies. It's just a very cool vibe and aesthetic that the developers decided to put into this game. One that I was really excited to get to try out and play for my followers as a playthrough Kurosawa mode. But I digress. There are different difficulties in this game, ranging from very easy to lethal mode. And in a very recent update, they have released a new game plus mode, which apparently makes the game even more difficult. I personally have not had a chance to dive into this new game plus mode, but I'm very excited to revisit the game here and try it on a harder difficulty. As far as the rest of the gameplay and the story and whatnot are kind of concerned, the RPG elements are fantastic. You basically gain renown by doing quests and taking over Mongolian encampments and helping out multiple side characters complete their particular story or journey, and then you garner them as allies on your main journey to try and take back the island. And this leads me to my next and probably my most favorite part to talk about with this game, which is the combat system, which is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Let me say that one more time. Phenomenal. Very tightly done combat system. It has an upgrade system where you gather materials throughout the entire game. You have this upgrade system where you can go upgrade your weapons, your sword, your dagger for more stealth, quicker, more silent stealth killing, your bow and arrow, your long range bow and arrow, your short bow or your long bow, your ghost weapons, which you have a myriad of different ghost weapons, from kunai, throwing knives, to smoke bombs, to black powder grenades, to little wind chimes to use as distractions. There is a myriad of different ways that you can approach each and every single combat situation in this game, and it is glorious. If I want to, I can walk up on a group of Mongolians and challenge them to a standoff, and essentially once you get to a certain level, you can essentially murder a group of 5 Mongolians without ever having to do anything but hit the triangle button on your controller. It's fantastic, and the flourishing and the killing is wonderful. There's just so many different things from the different stances that you can use in the game. With your sword, you unlock a bunch of different stances as you go through this game by observing Mongolian leaders, or by killing Mongolian leaders. And these stances are used as effectiveness against different enemy types. So for example, one stance is good against sword users, another stance might be good against shield users, while another stance might be better yet against spear users, and the last stance might be good against hulking, brute-like enemies. And then there's the ghost stance, which is one of my favorite, one that you get to unlock later in the game, and it is glorious. Once you activate ghost mode, you literally have about 10 seconds to run around and just murder everything in one shot without anybody blocking you. People get scared of you and start to run away when you activate this mode. This game does a great job of making you feel like you are an intimidating force in this game. It's wonderful. And not only that, but you can get finishing kills on enemies that are crawling away. If enemies get scared of you and start crawling away from you, you can basically go and one-shot them on the ground. As I said, there are a myriad of different ways you can approach fights in this game. As I stated a little earlier, you can walk up on a group of Mongolians and just straight up stand off against them and be like, "Come at me, Mongolian bros." Or you can walk in and stealth your way through, doing stealth kills and being more of the ghost persona. And each of these elements actually has a visible effect on the actual ambiance of the game. And what I mean by that is, if you start to go through this game and do more stealth killing and ghost killing, you're going to see more overcast, rainy, thunderstormy environments, as opposed to if you go through this game as a quote-unquote honorable samurai facing your enemies face to face. Regard to the graphics of this game, we're talking about last gen console now at this point, and it looks beautiful. It is stunning. The landscapes when you go on top of a mountainside are gorgeous. The fact that the developers added a Kurosawa mode and a color mode to this game is crazy. Like, they didn't have to do this. But they were like, you know what? Kurosawa was such a bad that we're just gonna give a nod to the guy because he made such great old school samurai movies. So it's a vibe. It really is just a feeling when you go through this game in Kurosawa mode. Not to mention it's in black and white, so all those visual clues that I just told you about in the combat system are a little bit more difficult to pick up when everything's in black and white. So it does add a little bit more of a difficulty to the game. The audio cues sound different because the game is in monotone as opposed to stereo. It's just a different feeling, and I would encourage anybody who has this game to play through it, even if you want to set it to the easiest difficulty setting, and just play through it to get a feel for the vibe of what an old school samurai movie looked like, sounded like, felt like. This game is a visual masterpiece. I am blown away every time I fire this game up. And when I was doing the recording for this video and the gameplay again, I found myself with my mouth agape because it's just some of the horizon shots and the sun setting shots and the open field shots, and every different area has a different aesthetic to it. The southern part of the island looks different than the middle part, and which looks different than the top part. So you really feel like you're in a different area, a completely different zone, a completely different feel. When you get to that northern island part, the harsh snow and the wind, it almost sends a chill down your spine because that's how immersed you feel in these graphics. It's just fantastic. And as I said, it works really well in conjunction with the combat system. There are visual cues. There are some mini boss fights that you do, again, where these visual cues are of the utmost importance. You know, when you see that little red tinge on the screen, you know that something dodgeable is coming. You need to dodge this attack. or when you see that blue shine coming from an enemy attack, you know, hey, I can dodge this, but I can also parry this and maybe get some hits in and stuff like that. It's moving on to the developer of this game, Sucker Punch. What do we say about this, man? We talk about all these developers. We're going to be talking about these developers in these gaming reviews. We talked about CD Projekt Red when we reviewed Cyberpunk a month ago, and we're going to talk about Sucker Punch now. And what can I say except for bravo to you, Sucker Punch? I, for a long time, held you in the same regard as I held CD Projekt Red, and I gotta say, you all have taken the cake in regard to the game you developed in 2020. The game is polished. It is crisp. The story is well done and well researched. The character development, while it does need some, you know, a little bit more fleshing out, and only in very minor regards, is really well done. You can tell the developers did their research in regard to feudal Japan history and lore in regard to this game. Hell, even the Japanese people love this game, and that's not even mentioning New Game Plus. You can go through and play the game again on an even harder difficulty. So it's in regard to this game and the developer, well done. Again, bravo to Sucker Punch. If I had to give a Developer of the Year award to any developer last year, it would be Sucker Punch. Not only did they release this game, but then they doubled down on this game's success and said, oh, you're having fun with this game, player? How about we give you some free content? How about a free multiplayer? How'd that grab you? How about a New Game Plus feature to make it so the game is a little bit more replayable? And oh, how about it's free? Bravo, man. Because nowadays you don't see developers doing anything like this. You want a DLC? 30 bucks. You want a battle pass? 50 bucks. And that'll get you all the DLCs for the next year. Oh, there's more DLCs after the next year? It's another $30 for season 2 battle pass. Not with Sucker Punch. You want a multiplayer that gives you another 20 to 30 hours at least of gameplay? Done. You want a 4-person raid that'll take you and your team, depending on skill level and if you've done it before, that'll give you and your team another 10 plus hours of gameplay? You want survival mode where you can group up with 3 other players and go on different difficulties and get different aesthetic unlocks for not only the multiplayer version of the game, but the single player version of the game? Done. Done. Now, I know Sucker Punch isn't going to be releasing much else in regard to content with this game. They are still balancing and fixing a couple of bugs and glitches here and there, but those are so few and far between. I might have encountered a handful of those in my 40 to 50 hours of gameplay through the single player game, and probably no glitches or bugs in the entirety of the multiplayer. And I played that for another 30 hours. So in regard to the developer, bravo, Sucker Punch. Every other developer should be watching what you're doing with this game and your further development of Ghost of Tsushima too, because we all know you're going to develop a sequel to this game. It's already been rumored. It's already been rumored to have started development. Links for that I'll try and post in the description below. But I totally understand. You know, let's focus on the next game, because if the next game is even better than this game, I don't see any reason why that game shouldn't win Game of the Year in 2022 or whenever it releases. So my final score for this game, if I had to give it a rating out of 10, I would give it a 9.25 out of 10. I thank you all again so much for coming on out to this review today. We'll have more reviews of more games coming on this channel in the future. Please make sure you smash that reaction, that like button down below, and hit that sweet red subscribe button for us. And Panda Fam, we'll catch you on the flip side. Take care.